Hello, I'm Stuart Wallace, and I'm from Denver, Colorado, here in Kansas City with Bubba Kush. I'm a brand specialist. I create brands, and I'm a painter, more of a painter first. My history with cannabis started, I think, with, as many do, behind a showbiz pizza place with a joint and some friends. And it did nothing for me. I didn't think much of it, to be honest, and kind of just put it aside and didn't try it again, and probably till college, and same kind of thing. I thought it was just for fun. I didn't understand. I didn't have any fun on it. So cannabis wasn't a part of my life, really until it became until I had medical issues that regular drugs, chemicals, painkillers didn't work, and some experimental stuff. That's the only time cannabis even came into my view as something to take for other than maybe have a laugh. Yeah, my medical issues are pretty vast, but the main one that has caused chronic pain since I was 20, I went in to get a clean bill of health, can't remember for what reason, but I went in for a clean bill of health and was scheduled for open heart surgery 2 weeks later. They had found what's called patent ductus arteriosus, or PDA, and it's really common with, it's pretty common with newborn babies. I was 6 weeks early. My mum wanted me out quick. And my heart never closed. I basically had about a 10 to 20% flow change. So when I was 8 years old, my lips would turn blue, I'd turn white, and everyone was like, no, look at him run, he's fine. And I ran myself out of it. I didn't. And this surgery, the doctor went in through my back, and I think it's called a thoracic incision, where they cut around the side and they open your rib cage up. And when they opened my rib cage up and deflated my lung to fix my heart, they damaged all of the nerves from here to the same place in the back, this whole side. The clamps crimped on all of my intercostal nerves, which are the main ones that go to your spinal cord. So that from that moment, they were pinched. And there is no unpinching with nerves. So you basically have to go through a battery of drugs. I was on two different painkillers, opium or morphine-based painkillers. I was on an antidepressant, anti-seizure, and an antipsychotic all at the same time, just trying to figure out what would numb the brain. After about 10 years of that, I ended up having, the next step was to go and have implants, SPG, a spinal cord implant that would literally every millisecond send signals up to your brain and can confuse your brain so you don't feel the pain. All of those devices broke inside me. I had 8 major surgeries, 3 in 1 year. That's 3 incisions per surgery. And I was done with surgery. And I moved to Colorado from Seattle, where I had my last surgeries, and I was working there. And I moved to Colorado, and I went to a doctor and said, can you please take this out of me and give me a solution? And he said, I don't have a solution, but I can take it out of you. I said, all right, take it out. I'll find the solution. Denver I just got my card, my medical card, when I moved to Denver. So the day after I had all of the wires taken out that were up to my head and down to my spine, I walked down to the dispensary and I said, can you help me with something? And I lifted my shirt up and I had 30 staples. And I said, this is, if you just tell me if you can't, because I'll find a different solution. And the woman was so kind, and I didn't know what she was talking about, but she said, why don't you just try a brownie and a cup of tea, take it at 8 o'clock tonight. It's about 50 milligrams, and again, hadn't had cannabis since high school. So I took it. At 8 o'clock at night, I took it, and I woke up the next morning and I put my foot, I'm gonna cry. I put my foot down for the first time, and it was amazing. I stood up. But it was the first time I had relief, not from a doctor. So I could have avoided, I mean, two or 3 major surgeries. Try a brownie, have a cup of tea. I wouldn't have had, another $200,000 in debt and all of the stuff that goes along with surgeries. So, it was a absolute life changer for me. It gave me hope, and for the last 8 years, I haven't had a surgery, not one. not one. I haven't had a painkiller, haven't needed one. So, you know, for me, it changed that moment. That walking in and talking to just this young lady, instead of going in and waiting in a hospital, it changed everything. That first journey, in one day, I realized this could help me in ways that all of these doctors that have bankrupted me couldn't do. So I'm talking about like turning to a plant instead of a hospital. It was a hard psychological thing to do. Even when I go today, 8 years later, I've been doing this for 8 years. 8 years later, if I go in and say, I have chronic pain from this, it's neuropathy, it's hypersensitivity, I've got 4 busted discs, I've got 2 pinched sciatics, they give you the same stuff that they give everyone for pain. I knew that wasn't right. So I decided to take it upon myself to try and figure out what worked for me, because otherwise you're just buying a product and throwing it in your mouth or smoking it and hoping it works. And some of it just doesn't. And I couldn't understand why it didn't. So I got with the doctor that actually took out my device. I got with him and said, help me figure this out. And so we started playing with THC, CBD levels and which one would work, and which one would work with me versus someone that had 20 pounds more. And all of this. So at the end of the day, what I figured out over it, and it took me 8 years, is that I now know the right mix. And the right mix for me isn't, it's as much getting the right plant, as pure as possible and as clean as possible, mixed with the right amount of CBD from the right place. If I do that, I haven't seen a doctor in 5 years for my back, you know, and I was having surgery every 2. So the fact that I can figure out the chemistry that works for me, that the oil mixed with the CBD oil mixed with THC oil, if it's processed the right way, there's nothing better in the world for me. Otherwise, I would still be taking painkillers. So before, even when I had the device in me, I was having problems because my chemistry was making this device that they put in me, my body was reacting to it. It was magnetically charged and signaled. So we figured out that the electronics just not going to work in me. I went through 7 or 8 devices, I can't remember, in 4 years, and they're supposed to be last 3 years each. So they blamed me. At the time when I had the last implant, I was pretty much bedridden. I got up to go to the bathroom and maybe get something out of the fridge in my bedroom, but that was about all I did. So after cannabis, that's why it was so emotional to actually stand up and be like, oh my God. And if you ever had LASIK or had your eyes done or get glasses for the first time, you know that feeling when you put them on and that's amazement of like, that's how bad my eyes were? When I stood up for the first time, off of that brownie and cup of tea, and it was a green tea, wasn't a chai tea with milk. When I stepped up, it was a miraculous moment for me. I mean, it was truly miraculous because I just stood there and was like, what the heck? I just stood up and I didn't scream. You know, I went and took a shower and I was like, holy shit. I went straight down to the dispensary and told them and I loaded up. But that only worked until my body got used to it. And then I had to start figuring out what chemistry would work with the actual problem. I was taking enough cannabis, THC, to lose some of the pain, but not enough to have it as a long-term solution. So finding that balance, that mix, which now I can go buy 1,000 milligrams of oil and I can make my own medicine. I mean, for me, that's huge. I'm here. The fact that I'm even here, that I got to Kansas City, is a treat. I mean, I relish traveling, being in my van, because it means I can still do it. So that cannabis freed me. I mean, mentally, physically, in every way. And the only thing I'm really pissed off about is that not one of these doctors, Harvard, wherever the hell they went, not one of them offered it to me. They offered me a knife. And that bothered me to the point where I want to be involved in this industry for no other reason than if I can stop one person from being cut, then you're just being cut. And so when people say I'm going to have surgery, I'm like, have a brownie and a cup of tea. Have it at 8 o'clock tonight. And then you tell me if you need that surgery. Because not one doctor has offered it to me. Not one. And I think that's shameful. So part of my issue with cannabis early on was I didn't like sort of like the stoner culture. I didn't like the whole, you know, all of that That's never been me, that wasn't me. And I'm proof you don't have to be that to enjoy the medical benefits of cannabis. You just have to be willing to try it. I mean, but you'll get more badness out of 2 beers than you will out of an edible in your body. Alcohol, and I've used alcohol for pain relief. When I've been at my max, whiskey can take a lot of pain away, but it wrecks everything else. Everything else it wrecks. Cannabis doesn't do that. So cannabis gives you the freedom to be able to manage your own pain, figure out how to make it work for you legally, and you have no adverse side effects like you do from any medicine or like alcohol. I've never woken up in the morning and gone, well, I had too much cannabis. I've never been like, oh, I can't function today. My pain doesn't let me function. Cannabis allows me to function. You know, the more pain you have, the more your body will eat anything you put in it. It needs it. So, you know, your body lets you know what's working and what doesn't. But you have to get in tune with your body. You have to understand the chemistry of your body and the chemistry of what you're taking. You can have a lot of fun without knowing that. But if you want to get medical and you want help, you have to get serious about it. You can't just treat it like you did in high school or in college. You should treat it with a different respect because it's going to take something away from you that you don't want. It's not going to necessarily give you something you're looking for. It's going to take away something that's in you. And I think that's something that I don't think any other medicine makes you feel that way. And the fact that I can go and I can grow my plant, extract the oil, and never even have to go to a store. What pharmacy can do that? I mean, there isn't any. So the sense of freedom is more than the freedom it gives you of like taking pain away so you can go do stuff. It's the freedom that you have when you feel actually free, when you're not, you know, encumbered by pain or, you know, if people would have depression and other, cannabis can help free them. To me, it's a beautiful example of nature providing, and human beings have forgotten over nearly 5,000 years when it was first used as a medical plant in China. We've forgotten the benefits of it, and we've added a stigma to it that is actually hurting people, not helping people. And I think that's damn near criminal, in my opinion. The fact that I'm a felon in some states and miserable and in pain in those states, yet I go home and I feel good because of it. You know, that's hard to take, that I'm actually a felon, you know, with a plant. Are you kidding me? That helps me, that helps people. So I will scream about it until it doesn't work. But so far for 8 years, it's kept me out of a hospital bed, kept me from being cut open. So I'm going to scream to everyone about, you should try it. And I mean, ultimately, that's what cannabis has done for me, and that's what Bubba Kush has done for me. It saved me. No way around it.